partnerships, and I won't put any more because it's just this here. You can get some third-party advocates that you build these relationships with in a community setting who trust you because they learn to know you, and then they spread that trust and it ripples out from them across other people that are important to you. I wish I could tell you, gee, you got 3 or 4 various strategies you can choose from, but this is literally all we know. Or you could put it another way. If you don't have those, you'll have distrust. You look at it any way you want to. Well, if you think about sociology or society, let's not be so academic about it. If you just think about society in general and how it functions, you begin to see why this is absolutely critical. That here's what we're all after. This is what the sociologists call a sociogram. You take a whole lot of material and you boil it down to a very simple, straightforward presentation. Success is what we're after here. However you define it, we want success. The trouble with success is, however, that you can't really proclaim it for yourself. If we took a vote here, hey, is SSA successful? Every hand goes up, oh yeah, we're a big success, but that doesn't mean anything. And you can run around town singing, we're a big success. People will think you're loony, but at least you'll be a big success. The problem with success is that it has to be conferred on you by other people. Just think about that. All of us as individuals, any organization we're with, true success means other folks confer that success upon you. And it's no good if they just go around saying you're a success or thinking you're a success. True success is only when their behaviors in support of your organization or in working with your organization or toward your organization make you truly a success. And so the problem here is that those outsiders who have to confer success on you are exactly that. They're outsiders. So for an organization in our society to succeed, prosper, survive, we have to get a bunch of outsiders who don't know what we're doing, don't know why we're doing it, are too busy to really care to find out. We have to get them to confer success on us through their behaviors. See why relationships are the critical thing? See why when you start a .com company, I got a great idea in my garage for this new e-commerce outfit, so I'm going to start building an organization. You know who the first person I hire is? My public relations person. It's the first person hired. And that's what's happening in all organizations. People who deal with this issue are the most important people in the organization. Obviously, it's important that the organization do what it does, make what it makes, provide the service or the product, but all of that can just be secondary if you haven't done this. If you haven't created a hospitable environment into which you can provide your service or offer your product, you're not going to go anywhere in today's world. And so if you look at this then from the point of view of, okay, we understand the challenge, what can we do about it? Unfortunately, there's only one answer. I can't even give you multiple strategies because the research is clear. The only way to do this, and I'll spend much of the rest of the day convincing you, I hope, proving to you through the research and cases and so forth, and through things that I want you to get involved in. But the only way you can do that is to build relationships with key stakeholders. It's the only way you can do this. Sending people information doesn't do it. And we'll go into that in just a minute. Now, these are very special kinds of relationships, however. These have to be relationships that earn trust. And what does that mean for an organization? We talked about trust over here. What it means primarily is that you speak with one clear voice. That I don't hear one thing from this part of the organization and something else from the other part of the organization, something of which I believe Social Security may have been accused over time. You speak with one clear voice, and that we are consistent. That we do our work in a consistent way, we treat people consistently, because that sort of consistency earns trust. And that doesn't mean it all has to be positive. There are things that, no, we just can't do that. We don't do that. And you have to make those harsh messages. But as long as people understand that they're not being picked out, but this is a consistent policy and it's applied consistently, then you can begin to earn people's trust. And if you earn trust in a relationship, then, the psychologists tell us, then and only then can you motivate behavior. And as I want to spend a lot of time today pointing out, what we're after here is motivating people's behavior. That's the goal. And so, if you think about this, a number of things immediately become apparent. One of the things that ought to become apparent with this is that all the cuts that we made in our public affairs kind of activities over the years are coming home to roost. And I know that we're beefing up again, and that's good, but we got a ways to go. Once you get behind the curve in our busy, over-communicated society, you don't just catch up overnight. It takes concerted effort. And thank goodness, I highly praise the agency. You're making a concerted effort. But I think you begin to get the picture of what we're talking about. Now, why is it relationships? Why are they so critical? Why aren't there other ways that we could do this? Well, let me just quickly outline what the options are here. How do you go about building relationships or in any way having an interchange with outsiders, with folks out there, or for that matter, with folks on the inside? There's sort of 4 levels of this. I just want to put all this into sort of a framework here for you so that when we start digging into the details, you'll know why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting and not just have to take it on faith. I want you to be able to judge for yourself. The first level is information transfer. And I'm purposely using that phrase because too often we talk about this as communication. We're going to communicate with somebody. But most of the time we're not really communicating. I guess probably people don't study Latin much anymore, but some of us did. And if you studied Latin, you know that in the word communicate, the C-O-M of communicate is the C-U-M in Latin, which means with. So the word communication, properly defined, is two-way communication. And yet most of what the government agencies do, and this has been true for a long time for everybody in society, though those who want to survive are quickly changing, is really information transfer. I've got this information, I think you ought to have it, I don't care if you want it or not, you're going to get it, right? And so it's information transfer. And the response to information transfer is totally predictable. I don't know why you're sending this to me. I haven't got time to read the darn stuff. Besides, it's Social Security. It's, nicely laid out on the page with no white space and lots of small type and, other things like that. We won't get into that today. This isn't a design course. But it certainly is an information map, usually to jump off the page, although you are doing better. You are doing better. But we need to think that a lot of what we want to do is that we have information we think you ought to have, we want to just transfer it to you. That has some serious barriers today. Even though we often have to do that, we've got to find ways to do it differently. If that doesn't work, or to supplement that, we then move on to dialogue. Now this is real two-way communication in that we've got something to say, but we want your feedback, and we want it simultaneously. So it's truly a two-way interchange, and as I'll show you later, far more powerful than this for a whole lot of reasons that most of you probably already understand. But the trouble is, you can dialogue with people forever, and nothing really comes of it. I mean, you have a great little dialogue, and it's nice. But if you do these two things with the goal of building a relationship, now that's different. And what does that require? Well, it requires, first of all, that we don't just do it once, but that once we've established a contact with folks, that we follow that contact up. Very difficult for you because you've got, what, 270 million Americans that you have to sort of have that with. But as we'll point out later, most of them aren't going to really be the shapers and movers on this. But nonetheless, there's got to be some of that maintenance, if you will. And then finally, if we have a relationship, then we can ask people for behaviors. And I don't just mean people who can come along and help us deal with the solvency issue, for example, but I mean simple little things like people who have some confidence in the agency, and so they don't cause lots of complaints and screw-ups at the office. You know, a complaint, handling a complaint is a very costly thing. We're finding that now in the electric utility industry. As electric utilities are deregulated, we've been telling them for years it's very costly to have a complaint. Never mind what it does to the relationship, even if you satisfactorily deal with it. Although we do have some fascinating information on complaints, something that you should take to heart in terms of customer delight, and that's the Technical Assistance Research Project, TARP Research. This is the organization, it's a private organization, happens to be located in Washington. And I want to emphasize that. It is a private organization, just happens to be located there. They are the group that, for example, designed the first 800 number systems for that kind of interchange with customers. And they've really been a great resource on this kind of research. They find that if I have a complaint with Social Security and I call you up and I finally get through and I talk to somebody or whatever, and you satisfy my complaint, I may tell 2, possibly 3 people. If my complaint is not satisfied, the type of research shows, I will tell 11 to 12 people. And so, you know, you begin to get the idea of the costliness in relationships. But in the electric utility industry, we're finding that it's more than that, and this has got to be true of you and everybody else. As utilities are deregulated, you probably, I don't know if any of you live in dereg states, some of you must, you have to choose who's going to be the ultimate generator of your electricity. Now, the company that runs the wires into your house doesn't change. The ones that run it into your house are called DISCOs, or distribution companies. And the ones who generate it off somewhere are called GENCOs, generating companies. So you choose your GENCO and their price, but it still comes into your home through the DISCO. And the DISCO gets a certain amount of money. They're still regulated. This is all they can get from you. So whether your price goes up or down depends on the deal you cut with your GENCO. Well, now, a DISCO can only get so much money. This should sound familiar to you HICFA people. Capitation is really what it boils down to. And so every time they get a complaint, and that takes time, it takes staff, that takes their profit right on down. Well, in your case, there's no such thing as profit, but it certainly plays hell with efficiency. And so when I talk about behaviors, I don't just mean we want people to support us on issues. I mean behaviors all the way along. If I have a relationship and some trust in the agency, my interchange with the agency will be totally different than if I'm skeptical or distrusting, and there is a dollar as well as a relationship cost to not having those kind of behaviors generated. So that's why we talk a lot about the importance of relationships. Let's just take 1 minute and sort of put all this into context of the environment that we're working in, because I find a lot of misunderstanding around what's really going on out there in society. The first thing that we know about society today, the first characteristic according to the research, is that we live in a vastly over-communicated.